So Jesus has now gone through 2 sets of trials. At 6 a.m., he wrapped up the trial with the religious leaders, the Supreme Court of the religious authority, and they came to the conclusion, guilty. They then took him to Rome or to the Roman authorities because they didn't have the authority to put him to death. Capital punishment was not within their abilities, within the legal rights that they had as Jewish authorities. They take him to Pilate. Pilate can't find guilt in him. Sends him to Herod. Herod can't find guilt in him. Sends him back to Pilate. Pilate still can't find guilt in him. Punishes him, flogs him, beats him, and says, "Look, I've punished him. Let's release him." They said, No. We don't want him punished. We want him killed. And he says, "Well, I'll give you Barabbas. You get to release one prisoner. Let me give you Barabbas, a murderer." And they said, "We don't want no. Here's the thing. We don't want to kill Barabbas. Give us Barabbas. Release Barabbas." Pilate thought they would give them Barabbas, and maybe they even put him on a cross. Who knows? He was the murderer after all. But the people say, "No, let him free. We want Jesus on the cross." Have you ever thought about why the cross? Like, of all the things, if Jesus wrote the story, if Jesus wrote the script, if Jesus wrote the way this would play out, that he would have to die on our behalf, do you ever wonder why he chose the cross? Like, why not like old age? Couldn't he have just lived perfect, for another decade or 2 decades, 3 decades, and just peacefully passed away in his sleep? Why the cross? Jesus leaves his conviction after he's sentenced, and he is forced immediately to have a sentence carried out. And so they bring him the crossbeam. Jesus doesn't have to carry the entire thing, just the crossbeam where his hands are going to be. And they put it on his shoulder, and he's forced to carry it to his crucifixion site. Jesus has just been beaten, flogged with a cat of 9 tails, bone and glass, have ripped the flesh from his bone. Both his back and the front ribs are just torn to pieces. And Jesus carries this crossbeam. He doesn't make it very far. A guy named Simon is forced to help him carry it. I've often wondered what happened to Simon, the only other guy to carry the cross. I wonder if Simon ever realized what he was carrying for that brief moment. Jesus makes it to the side. It's 9 o'clock. He puts down his crossbeam. Why the cross? The cross was meant to humiliate. They would hang these criminals pretty much naked in public for everyone to see. They would lay them down on this beam, and they put a nail in between the 2 bones in your arm where the start of your hand would become the stopper, so that nail would hang you on the piece of wood, and as you pulled, your hand bone would actually be the thing that kept you from the nail just ripping your flesh off. They would do that on both sides, and then they would bend your legs just a little bit. They didn't want it to be straight. They wanted them to be bent because they just wanted to increase the pain, so that as you hung there from your wrist bones, that you had something to push up on as you struggled to breathe, to get an extra breath of air. And so they made sure your legs were bent so you'd have some place to push. It was excruciating. Most people, when they were crucified, didn't die from the nails being driven in their arms or from the pain of the nails being driven through both of their feet, but they would die of suffocation. They just couldn't breathe. They would lose the strength to push up. Why the cross? Why the humiliation? Why the torment? Why the brutality? Why the cross? I've asked that question for years. Simple answer. Jesus wanted to make sure he left no doubt that for generations to come, when they read this story, when they read this historical account of a real day when a Jewish man in Jerusalem became too popular for the religious people, had too much influence with the people of God, when he began pointing them to the true God and said, forget this religious stuff, let's have a relationship with the God of the universe. They said, no, don't ruin our way of life. Don't ruin the fancy things we have going on. Don't ruin these customs and traditions that we have. Don't get rid of all these things, because this is where our power and prestige comes from. People were amazed at Jesus, and Jesus wanted to make sure he left no doubt. Jesus wanted to make sure that as thoughts crossed through your head and your life of, I don't deserve grace because of these things that I've done, Jesus wanted you to be able to recognize, and maybe someone to speak softly in your ear and say, hey, Jesus underwent an incredibly brutal punishment. He has paid your debt. That's not an argument we can make if Jesus falls asleep and never wakes up again peacefully in his bed. And we're like, okay, so he lived a perfect life, but he didn't suffer on my behalf. He didn't take the weight of my shame on his shoulders. He didn't do any of those things. And so I just feel like I'm still not worthy. And Jesus is saying, hey, I want to make sure that I leave no doubt that I've covered it all, that the suffering and the sin that you're saying, hey, this is what I don't deserve. Jesus said, I take it all. I'll take your sin, your suffering, everything, put it on me. My shoulders are big enough to take it. He said, I want to leave no doubt. Is that where you're at this morning? Do you doubt the goodness of God? Do you doubt the goodness of Jesus? Do you know why today is called Good Friday? Because of the cross. Because under every other circumstance, the cross can never be described as good until Jesus hung on it. You see, the cool thing is, Jesus makes everything he touches good. And that's what he offers to you. He offers you goodness. Jesus is hanging on the cross. He knows, because of his relationship with God, with the Father, how difficult it is for God to watch what's happening. And so I love this exchange that happens as Jesus gets put on the cross. It's like Jesus can hear his Father saying, not to my kid, not my boy. Don't you? It's just like he can feel the rumbling that's happening in his Father's chest to say, I just don't know if I can bear to watch you do this. And so Jesus calms his dad down a bit. He says in Luke 23, verse 34, Jesus said, Father, forgive them. Forgive them. For they do not know what they're doing. So many times when we read that verse, we think that that's for us. That was Jesus just saying, God, hey, Father, just hold on. Don't get to, just, if you're going to do anything, simply forgive them. Because they don't know what they're doing. what Jesus did. Why the cross? To leave no doubt. To make it good. To make you good. It's 9 o'clock. Jesus is on the cross. Lindsay.
You were a lover before time's beginning, and you gave your love freely, withholding nothing. Jesus, my Jesus, you carried the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you stopped at nothing to prove you were for us. Jesus, my Jesus. It's extravagant, it doesn't make sense, we'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable, only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us, to say you love us. You don't belittle our pain and our suffering, and you comfort us in our greatest unraveling. Jesus, my Jesus. And you are the dawn that is breaking within me, and you are the sun that is rising around me. Jesus, my Jesus. It's extravagant, it doesn't make sense, we'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable, only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us, to say you love us. Oh, your love is all we need. Oh, you gave it all, you gave it all for me, so we give it back to you. Here is all my love, it's yours, no conditions. When you pull me close, no, I won't resist it. Here is all my love, it's yours, no conditions. When you pull me close, no, I won't resist it. Here is all my love, it's yours, no conditions. When you pull me close, no, I won't resist it. No, I won't resist it. Oh, no hesitation, I won't resist it. I won't resist it. No, it's extravagant, it doesn't make sense, we'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable, only heaven knows just how far to say you love us, 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 to say you love us. It's 9 o'clock. Jesus is on the cross. Join us at 12.